Let's paint this great white shark. Alright, so I recently did a water surface painting tutorial, and I'm going to use this as the background for this great white shark painting. So it's a 5x7 canvas taped up with masking tape. I have a filbert brush, and I'm going to mix phthalo blue and Mars black. And that 50-50 phthalo blue Mars black mixture is going to be our color to put in the blocking base coat of the shark's body. So I have that filbert brush. I dipped it in clean water there to the right. Bristles are moist, not dripping wet, not dry, and I'm just going to mix up that phthalo blue and Mars black. And using this brush, I'm going to go ahead and just block in the shark's body shape. Okay, now that that's blocked in, I'm going to blend up some pinks by using Scarlet, which is just a bright red. And the titanium white. And we want a spectrum that goes from white all the way to dark red. So light pink, mid pink, dark pink. Later on we'll even blend in a little bit of black into some of those darker pinks to get a shaded pink for inside the mouth and for shading in the gums and throat and mouth, and to add some blood and things like that. So that's what we're going to do here. But first things first, I have a little round brush, um, and I'm going to mix some white into cobalt blue and a touch of black, so it's just a gray blue. This has white, black, and phthalo blue. And I'm going to use this blue-gray color to add some varying shapes in the back of the shark, just to show moisture and a little bit of color, and to define the back from the mouth and the white pink underside of the mouth and nose and jaws. Now here I'm just mixing in some grays that do not have as much blue in it. So this is a true gray. And I'm just working around those blue grays that we placed in. And again, I'm just defining the upper back and nose and head. And then we'll put in the pinks and whites once we get this blocked in. Here I'm just going to put in a pitch black eye. This is just pure black. And we want that eye to be black and very dark. And then once you get it shaped in, rinse your brush and get some of that dark blue gray. And just blend in a little dot right in the center just to make it a little more 3D. Okay, now to map out the mouth and jaw and lower portion of the head here, I'm just mixing up a super light pink. I mean, it's pretty much pure white with the tiniest amount of red in there. It's so subtle that you probably can't even see it on this video, but it's pretty much white with just a tiny bit of pink. And with this, I'm just going to, again, map out the mouth and jaw. And right now, we're just putting in our first layers and mapping everything out and blocking in. Okay, now that we've done that, we can go in and start to map out the throat. So I'm going to use that same light pink, but I'm going to add darker areas within this throat and mouth and gums as we start moving forward. And all I'm going to do is, if I need to go a little darker with this pink, I'll just dab a tiny little bit of that red and add a little bit of red to that white mix. And that'll darken it up. And then if I need it even darker, I add a little bit more red and blend it in, and it'll go a bit darker. Now for the shaded portions within the mouth and gums, what I just did there was take a tiny bit of black and blended it into the darker red portions that we created. And you can see you get a darker shaded type, deeper pink there. And so this color can be used for a lot of the shaded portions. And if you need it even darker, you can add a little more black. And you can get some nice shaded pink red gums and mouth regions by doing that. That's a good color scheme for that. So as we start to work in the mouth here and define the throat and gills and jaw, we're just going to work on that one pile. You know, we started out with pure white with a tiny bit of pink. And for the darker portions, I'll add a little bit more red to get a deeper pink. And for the shaded regions, I'm adding a little bit of black to get that grayed down deep pink. And we just work these different shades of pink and red, and we add a little white to get a lighter, brighter pink for highlighted portions. We add more red and black for deeper, darker portions like this. And you just work and blend those different colors and just keep moving it around and adding layers and tweaking and changing. But you know, you can see it's all it is just a balance of white and red and black. And so we'll just keep changing here and working it in using that small round brush with moist bristles, not dry, not wet. And you know, we'll just keep working at it until it starts to come together here. I'm just going to add a light pink for these outer jaw gum portions just because I want them to pop. You know, those big gums with the teeth protruding out with the blood on them, and you know, that's what makes this scene. So I want those jaws and teeth to you know, to really have a wow factor and be in your face. Now to block in the teeth, I'm using a little detail brush. And for the base coat on the teeth, I'm making a light gray, not just a pure white. We use a light gray, and then we'll add later on a couple layers of pure white on top of that gray, and it'll look more natural than if you just go in with a pure white tooth. It just won't. It's hard to make that look right. Usually teeth have a lot of different colors in them. You know, yellows, reds, grays. So here, you know, a light gray will be a good base. You can even put a little pink or red in there if you want. But we want it pretty much white, but just a real light gray will work well here for blocking in these teeth. Now we can get back into the jaws, gums, throat, gills. I want to get inside the mouth done first, and then we'll kind of work our way out. Because that inside of the mouth is complicated. There's a lot going on. So I want to focus and make sure that's correct first, and then we can start working on the outer body. Okay, I know I just said I was going to do the mouth inside of the mouth first, but just on the underside of that jaw and throat, get a little bit of that uh, light gray with blue in it. So this is phthalo blue, black, and white, but a real light gray blue version. And using that moist bristle brown detail brush, just blend in a subtle, soft, uh, light gray blue on the underside of that throat and lower jaw. Now I have a little bit of light pink. I'm just going to put a slight border around the eye, slight border around the nostril and nose. And then we can put in some, this is just a detail brush, put in some crisscrossing lines and some little streaks up in the nose area there. Give some cuts and scars and scratches. It's just another level of detail that just makes it more interesting, gives it a little bit of a wow factor. Using the same detailed brush, moist bristles, I'm just going to get a very, very light blue, pretty much pure white, and we'll just do a quick outline of the back just to break it up from the background and define it a little bit. If it's scratchy and spotty, get more water on your brush. If it's too thin and it's puddling, then get water out of your brush. You want it right in the middle where it flows and it's creamy, but it's not dripping wet and it's not dry and scrapey and scratchy. So finding that balance of water it's important once you get into the details. And now I'm going to go in and work on those lower jaws and the inside of the mouth and try to get that looking good. Okay, so at this point I'm pretty happy with the inside of the mouth. So let's move into the face and that white portion. So this is pure white on a little round brush, moist bristles. And let's get some pure white and just add some highlighted areas, a second layer. Because the lower jaw portion is an off-white with some light blues mixed in, if you remember. The upper nose area, that white has a soft pink to it. So we can go in with some of this bright white and add some variation and some highlights, some contours, and it'll just help it become more realistic. So I'm going to selectively put in some of this bright white, blend out the edges, keep it soft, and that'll help just make it more three-dimensional and lifelike. So it's pretty difficult to narrate every single brushstroke. Just as a note, a lot of these things hopefully you can just watch and copy. And then I'll narrate and explain, bigger concepts and anything really worth noting that you need to know. So when you're putting in your teeth, make sure to think about the profile from your point of view. So from this point of view, the teeth closest to us, we will see pretty much the full tooth. But as it curves and wraps around that jaw, you're going to see it from a side profile. So you can see what I just put in there. It's just those skinny side profiles of teeth, just little strips of white. And that will make it look much more realistic. If you try to make each tooth a triangle and don't adjust for the orientation depending on your point of view, it's just not going to look right. So just think about that as that jaw wraps around. Make some of those teeth wrap with that jaw and give them that side profile. So now we can start to work in some details, like, in the cuts and scars. We can add some different deeper reds. So here, this is a darker red pink, and we can add some wrinkles from that, not that nose bunching up, from the jaw opening up and compressing that skin. We can just add some little bumps and scratches and scrapes and little dots here and there, and just a bunch of different variation using those different colors that we've mixed up. Here I'm just making a bunch of little dots up there near the nostril. A lot of sharks have those sensory pores up near their mouth and nostrils, so you can put those in for an extra level of realism. Here I'm just blending in some different grays and blues in the back just to add variation and contour. There behind the eye, there's a lighter area to show that eye protruding a little bit from the rest of the face and back. And then we have some lighter gray areas, and I'll work in some lighter blue areas. Just mix up your white and your phthalo blue and make some grays, and just add some darker grays and blues, and you can copy where I add it. But that's all I'm doing here, is just adding some variations of gray and blue, just to show a more 3D look. And then down on the bottom here, we can use some of that dark blue, just in a bizarre shape, an abstract shape, to show some splashing water there in the foreground. You can just blend it out a little bit. And this is just a little round brush, but whatever you're comfortable with. So at this point, now I'm starting to work with a lot of just white and black with a small brush, and just adding in details, cleaning up edges, adding tiny variations, giving it an outline, brightening up teeth, you know, deepening little shadows there in the throat and gums, and further defining wrinkles and scratches. So that's pretty much what I'm doing here for a little while, just to clean everything up. I'm going to go back in now and just add another layer to the back of the head and the side of the head there, up on the back color, those blues and blacks and grays. Just add a little bit of light gray there behind the eye just to make sure that pops. Then we'll get some of that light gray blue and add some more patches of that. And then in between that, we'll add some dark gray blue and blend it together a little bit, and it'll just help make it look more real. So now I'm going to get a fine detail brush with black, and I'm just going to outline a lot of these major features, in between the teeth, the outside of the body, the gums. You see I'm just bordering pretty much the entire shark, and just the things that I want to define, I'm going to border. So the outline, I'm going to go with a real thin strip of black. The teeth, I'm going to border some of those main features of the gums. Um, some of the wrinkles, things like that. And this will just add a defined edge to it and really make everything look cleaner. Now we can rinse that off and do the same thing with white. Add bright white highlights to some of these teeth, some of the outer portions. As much as I hate to do it, I think those glinting lights in the distant water surface are a bit distracting to the shark. And I want the shark to be clean and focused. And so I'm going to cover up those glinting spots of light there on the back. And I'm going to do that with phthalo blue for the darker portions, phthalo blue mixed with white in a 50-50 mid blue for the lighter portions. And then I'll go back with a bit of white at the very end to put on top of the lighter portions as a highlight. And then we should be able to cover up those glinting lights there in the back, and it'll just help make the shark a bit more defined and featured. Okay, I think that helped. And now I'm going to go in with a liner brush, moist bristles, just so it flows. This is just a fine detail brush, sorry, with bright white, and I'm just going to add an outline to some of these white portions that I really want to be clean, contrasting white against the background so that the shark pops. So some of the teeth I brightened up, that outer gum up in the nose near the nostril. And then now I'm going to get more bright white, and this is a liner brush. And with that super fine liner brush and bright white, I'm going to add a outline, a bright white outline on the back of the shark. And this will define it against the background, and then it'll really be the centerpiece. So that background will drop back in the distance, just be a nice afterthought. And that little outline, that glowing white outline, really brings that shark front and center for us. I'm just going to keep that white and add a couple more details and layers and just redefine the outline and add a little bit in the background there, and then that should wrap it up. And that's how you can paint a realistic great white shark in acrylics. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all on the next video.